Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. If you are learning Chinese currently, the first step should be to learn pinyin. So if you haven't learned that already, please go check out this video on pinyin or do some research yourself. That is definitely something I would prioritize at the beginning. After learning pinyin, I think it's a good idea to be introduced to tone. Now, tones are not something you're going to be able to master your first week or your first month even. When learning Chinese, but I do think the concept itself is relatively easy. It's just that practice that's going to take some time. So this video is going to be a general introduction to tones, and I'll also introduce some tricky things that I think you should learn early on as well. So if you've never studied a tonal language before, you might not even know what tones are. Basically, a tonal language is a language where the inflection of your voice, the tone of your voice, the way your voice changes when saying a word, that can affect the meaning of the word. So an example that's generally given to Chinese language learners early on is 睡觉, which means to sleep, and 水饺, which means dumpling. So again, with the pinyin, it's the same. So the fundamental pronunciation is the same, but the tone of the characters is different. And that's how Chinese speakers can differentiate which one is which. One thing I want to make clear is that tones are not notes. It's not about the note that you hit. You don't have to be a singer or have perfect pitch to speak a tonal language. It's really just about the pitch relative to the other words that you said or how it changes. So different languages and different Chinese languages have different numbers of tones, and the tones vary in how they change. But in Mandarin Chinese, the kind of Chinese that I speak, there are 4 tones with a 5th kind of toneless tone. So all the tones are numbered. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the toneless tone. So I'm going to use the word ma to act as an example. When we go through all these tones, I'll just have ma and I'll say the tone with it. So the first tone in Mandarin Chinese is a high flat tone. Again, with the word ma, that'd be ma, ma. What I mean by flat is your pitch shouldn't change when you're using this tone. The second tone is rising. So you start lower in your voice and you go up, up. So with the word ma, again, that'd be ma, ma. The third tone starts low and falls a little further down in your pitch and then rises up again. So again, with ma, that'd be ma, ma. So when this tone rises up, it doesn't rise up nearly as much as it would with the second tone. There's a chart here that can give you a general idea of how far it should rise up. Another note about the third tone is that it usually only rises like that when it's the final character of the sentence. So if it's in the middle of a sentence, it'll kind of just go down, or it'll just be in the lower part of your voice and not change too much. That's really just for ease of pronunciation. If you have to go up and down with your voice while you're in the middle of a sentence, it's kind of tough. So usually native speakers will just go down, maybe a slight rise, but it's pretty quick. The fourth tone is a falling tone. So you start higher in your voice and you go down. So it's ah, ah, ah. Some people kind of have described it to me like you're getting punched in the gut or something. You, like you're releasing all of your air at once. Again, the main point is just that you start higher in your voice and you go down. So with the word ma, again, that'd be ma, 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 ma. If you didn't know, means to like yell at somebody or scold somebody. So the toneless tone is kind of difficult because where it falls in your voice can vary depending on the situation, but generally it's going to be kind of in the middle of your voice, in the middle of your vocal range. One character you might learn early on is also the word ma, that's toneless, and it's a question marker. So you'd put this at the end of a sentence to make it a question. You've probably already heard ni hao, which means hello. If you put ma at the end of it, ni hao ma, that's one way of asking somebody like, how are you? But just so you know, they don't normally say ni hao ma as a way of greeting somebody. So that's the basic gist of the tones in Mandarin Chinese. But there are some things that you should learn first before continuing your Chinese language learning journey, and that is tone sandhi. Now, tone sandhi is basically when in a tonal language, a character or word normally has one tone, but because of other words surrounding it, its tone changes. So tones can change in Mandarin Chinese. Now, We are very lucky to be learners of Mandarin Chinese because tone sandhi in Mandarin is pretty simple and pretty rare. So there are two basic kinds of tone sandhi in Mandarin Chinese. The first one is with the third tone. Remember, the third tone is a falling and rising tone. It starts low in your voice and goes back up. In Mandarin Chinese, when there are two characters next to each other that have the third tone, so you have a 3 and a 3 together, the first one of these will change into a second tone. And this can also stack. So if you have many characters in a row where there are 3s, like 3, 3, 3, the final one is the only one that will actually be pronounced with a third tone. All of the other ones will be changed to a second tone. So again, if you've learned the phrase ni hao, which is hello again, ni is normally a third tone character, and so is hao. So that's 2 3s. So when you say ni hao, the ni is changed to a second tone. And that's why. Okay, the second kind of tone sandhi is with two characters in Chinese that have their own unique tone sandhi rules. Luckily, I believe there's only 2, so we're going to talk about those as well. The first word is the character yi, which is the number 1. When yi just represents the cardinal number 1, it just is pronounced with the first tone, how it's normally supposed to be pronounced. But when it's used to count things or in pretty much any other usage, it has tone sandhi. So when E is followed by a character with the fourth tone, which again is a falling tone, then E changes to a second tone. So for example, this character is the character ci, which is a measure word used to measure the amount of times you do something. So if you do something once, you'd say 一次. 一次. So again, it's not 一次. It's not the first tone. It changes to a second tone now. So it's 一次. 一次. When E is followed by any other tone, then it changes to the fourth tone. So another measure word is the measure word mao, which is the second tone. If E is before this, it changes to E, the fourth tone. So 一毛, 一毛. That's pretty much it for E. The next character we're going to talk about is bu. Now, bu means no, or it can be used to negate something. Normally, this character is the fourth tone. But if bu is followed by another character with the fourth tone, then bu changes to bu with the second tone. One example is with the word shi, which means to be. Shi is also the fourth character. Shi can also be used to say yes. So if you use bu to negate it, then it becomes no. But because, again, shi has the fourth tone, when bu is added to it, bu becomes bu, so it's 不是, 不是. That's pretty much it for tone sandhi. There is one other last thing I want to mention, and that's that some characters do not always have the same tone. Some characters, based on different situations, will just have different tones, and I don't really know the reason why that is, but that's just how it is. For example, we talked about the character hao, which means good. It's in ni hao. In the word ai hao, which means hobby, hao is fourth tone. So it's the same character, but in this situation, it's the fourth tone. There are other occurrences of this in Chinese, and you're just going to have to get used to it. If you're reading a textbook, normally if it changes, the pinyin will have that marking there. This isn't just restricted to tones too. Some characters can have multiple pronunciations. This isn't as common as it is in like Japanese, for example. Some kanji will have many different pronunciations. Most of the time, it's one character, one pronunciation, but it isn't always like that. Like for this character here, in this word, it said xing, so this is xingwei. And in this word, it's pronounced hang. This is inhang. So it's just sometimes like that. The last thing I want to talk about is practice. So regarding practice, I think the best tool for practicing on your own is shadowing somebody, which is something I've talked about a little bit before in the last video too. Just listening to what somebody says and repeating it to the best of your ability. You can use YouTube videos. You can use the website Youglish that I talked about before. You can watch the news. If you slow it down a bit, you can listen to other Chinese speakers around you and try to mimic what they say. I think listening practice helps a lot too. If you don't know how to listen to a tone, you probably won't know how to say it either. So listening to more Chinese is super helpful as well. Honestly, the best case scenario is having a Chinese teacher or a speaking partner, somebody who speaks Chinese around you. That way you can practice listening to them, and you can also ask them for advice if you're confused about something. Good, so that's pretty much the gist of tones, the overall summary. If you have any other questions about tones or the Mandarin language, please leave those comments in the comment section below. I'd love to hear them. The next video in this series will probably be about Chinese characters and how they're put together and different kinds of Chinese characters. So if you're looking forward to that video, please like and subscribe, and hopefully that'll come up on your feed. Thanks so much for watching the video up to this point, and I hope to see you in that next one. Peace.